The purpose of this guide is to help you understand some basic things about the game to make it a little bit easier for your first time. I'm choosing Hunter so that I can have access to arrows, which I'll demonstrate later. And it's an all-around decent class with decent spread of skills for strength and dexterity. I'm going to use the Master Key as a gift because it allows us to open so many locks and opens up the game a lot more than if you were to not have it. It's hard to explain, but hopefully I'll be able to show some doors that are opened by this item, though you can open it with other items, and I might get around explaining to it. This should be a series of videos instead of one long video like I've done in the past. So what I'm doing here is I'm equipping the short sword in my left hand so I can block while I run. This is important. We use it a lot in speedruns and challenge runs because you can accidentally roll or jump when running because they attached sprint and the jump dodge mechanic to the same button. For me, it's the B. If I'm running and I tap B because I have an enemy attacking me, normally I want to just roll through it, which gives me invulnerability frames, or I can't get hurt while I'm inside the animation, right? Whereas if I'm running and then I tap B, instead of dodging, I'll jump, which I don't have invulnerability frames during that animation. To avoid accidentally jumping, you just run and tap B, but block with your left bumper. I should probably show my controller. There you go. You're blocking with the left bumper. You're running. You will never do a run and jump accidentally if you block, which is why I put the weapon in my left hand. Big guy drops down. Oh no, panic, I only do 2 damage. Ah. Alright, now what? I'm not going to sit at the bonfire because I don't need to. Oh. So I'm used to using the controller and menuing. While I'm moving. You don't have to. You probably shouldn't if you're still new to the game. I have a couple hours in this game, so I kind of know what I'm doing sometimes. Then you're going to break this wall with that boulder. You can activate the boulder by passing this point. And then we get our Estus. You could talk to him. He dies either way, so I like to just kill him. Apparently, it's like a second or 2 faster to just talk to him and then walk over here, which is the max range you can be and still talk to him. I recommend unlocking this door for later. Much later, but still later. They talk to you about parrying. I'll make another video about parrying, but for now, I just like to parry everything. When there's script, like you use this key to open this door until you press A or whatever it is, whatever this button is for PlayStation, until you press that button, you can't do other inputs. You have to make it go away. You can't roll, you can't run, you can't dodge. You can walk, but you can't do anything else. This is just a simple demonstration of how not locking on can allow you a lot of mobility. So you don't have to block the arrows. They made this game a few years ago now. So you don't have to lock on with the right joystick toggle depression. In fact, a lot of times it's easier to not lock on. We're going to walk off and plunge attack. There's a few instances in which we can actually plunge attack, but for the most part, we can't. There aren't a whole lot of points to plunge attack is what I'm trying to say. You want to save some stamina for rolling, dodging attacks. If you see the dust being kicked up into the air, there's actually a knockback. Let's see if I can show it to you. Come on, fly up. I said fly up, please. Should I be behind you? Would that help? A lot of times, if you're just behind an enemy, they won't hit you. There are some enemies that have an attack specifically for when you're behind them. See how I got hit, but I was quite a ways away? There's like the initial weapon damage, just like it's sitting on you or jumping on you. But there's like a wind blowback that does less damage, but it still moves you, staggers you. What I was trying to show is that if you're not locked on, you have quite a bit of freedom of movement. But if you're locked on, you can only do 4 directions: forward, backwards, left, and right. I'll demonstrate that in a second. But basically, you're a lot more agile and mobile if you don't lock on. But like if you're using a bow or magic, it makes the game a lot easier if you do lock on. So there's a bit of a balance. First and foremost, vitality is key. Vitality and endurance. Endurance will let you dodge more, run more, and wear more equipment, heavier equipment, which will give you more armor, more resistance, more poise. Poise means weapons that hit you do make your character flinch less or not flinch at all, depending. And vitality is king. Like, you can't go wrong with pumping vitality. Pumping meaning putting levels into vitality. Just keep in mind, every level that you have, the subsequent level will cost more souls. So at level 50, it'll be quite a few souls. So if you make a mistake, it's going to take a while to recover from that. Make a mistake meaning you needed to level up dexterity to wield a weapon as opposed to leveling vitality. So if you can see, I can only move and strafe. I can move towards and away, but I can't do this. If you're not locked on, you can just walk around enemies and backstab them. It makes the game so much easier. Wearing armor helps you get hit, or helps you take less damage when you get hit. But, oops, that might be a firebomb. Hey! But wearing armor means that you have, let's see, how do I explain this? Your equip load. Right now, I am light rolling because I'm under 30% equip load. Or it might be 27%. Anyway, you're in below 30% threshold for equip load, which means you can light roll, which is the fastest roll that you can have. And it takes you a little bit further, I think. No. You have more iframes. The distance doesn't change. There we go. But if I put on all my armor, I am now medium rolling. I have fewer invulnerability frames, and I'm on the ground for a longer time. which kind of sucks. Yeah, okay. Yep. And that's the consequence of not parrying correctly. So this game is very, very, very forgiving when it comes to parrying. You basically have two parry times. You can parry at the beginning and towards the middle of the animation. Oops. Nope. Too early. I'm not used to battle axes, apparently. That's gonna get cut. So, as his hand just begins to move down, I can parry and then immediately riposte. I don't have to wait for the animation of the parry. Firebomb. Fog walls do not always indicate a boss fight, but often do. If you can see enemies or items, you can probably go there. Sometimes you can get a little creative with obstacles. Oops. Okay. Sometimes your weapon will tink against a wall, and that sucks, and it's frustrating. But yeah, you can get creative with collisions and polygons, all that fun stuff. Some jumps you can make, some jumps you can't. I will equip my bow and some arrows that we got because of this starting class. If you see enemies, you can hit them. In this game, unfortunately, the arrows don't exactly go where you think they would go. But for the most part, it's pretty accurate. If you're wanting to hit something, but can't go any lower, you can exit and aim outside of the zoom in. The bow is the only thing that you can equip in your left hand and two-handed, which is very important for the speedrun for the Prepare to Die edition that's no longer available on Steam. Big sad. Sometimes I lock on just to make sure that I hit, but oftentimes if I miss, I get punished more because I'm locked on. A lot of attacks in this game you can just walk around, strafing. You don't actually have to fight them or get hit by them, rather. And just because you're locked on doesn't mean your character will attack appropriately. There's a place in the game that I'll show later that you can drop items such as rubbish. And it will trade an item with you when you log out and come back in, or leave the zone and come back in. They kind of reward exploration. More often than not, they're not trolling you. Sometimes they are. So you would think that you could make this jump, but even if you go as far as you can, well, they designed it so that you can't jump across. Some of these guys can do a Superman. Really? I'm not gonna do this. Come on. While you're opening doors, opening chests, backstabbing, riposting. Riposting is that when I parry them and then attack and stab them in the gut, that's a riposte. Backstabs also give you invulnerability frames. So sometimes you actually want to, if you get overwhelmed, parry and then riposte. And that'll give you a little bit more time to figure out what you want to do afterwards. You can kick enemies to take down their shields. That actually works in Elden Ring as well. You'll eventually learn all the parry times and all that stuff, but for these guys, you can actually just walk around them. Collisions are kind of interesting in this game. As you can see, that box definitely wasn't in my face, but I was still prevented from moving forward by it. Some people are nice. Some people rub buckets and then talk about their swords and are creepy. The residence key is extremely helpful to unlock one person. The master key will unlock everything else, but the residence key is necessary to unlock access to the sorcerer or the person who teaches you sorceries. So I'm going to buy it. I also really like the reinforced club. For some reason, it's a great weapon. Because if you toggle display, it says auxiliary effects. That little red splotch at 300, that's how much bleed damage buildup it causes. So let's say the boss has 1,000 bleed resistance. You hit the boss 3 times and you're 100 points away. So once you hit them the 4th time, they bleed. Convenient. Bleed is a very powerful tool, and I highly recommend using it as often as you can. Now, Dark Souls 1 is the only game that you have to sit down at the bonfire to fully unlock it. Just lighting it is not sufficient. So if you just light it, run off and die, well, you're going to be all the way back in Firelink Shrine. Which sucks. These guys like to throw firebombs at you. But if you stand here, they can't hit you. Conversely, you could just walk up behind them. There's a ladder that you can use. Some guys like to surprise you, so we'll surprise them first. Some enemies can actually have their own Estus, or the orange drink. Sometimes you can hit 2 enemies at once, which is kind of cool. And some enemies like to be behind walls until you do something. Remember what I said about them rewarding exploration. There we go. Black fire bombs are pretty great. They are much stronger than regular fire bombs, and I will use them in the next video. See you in a minute.